Hey guys, welcome back to Magic the Gathering Online, Speculation, Economics, and Finance. Today I'm going to walk you through my $2,000 investment portfolio and give you some sense of how I think you can invest $8,000 a year profitably in Magic the Gathering Online. So, it's a pretty simple idea. When you see, by the way, this is MTG Goldfish, and here's a quick glance at my portfolio that I just finished up. As far as the total amount invested on this, it's not quite 2,000. It's $1,947 was the total amount I had put in as far as money spent. And then as far as the returns go, so far to date I've gotten back $2,048. So when you put that together, I'm up $100, which is, we're looking at around a little more than a 5%, 6%, somewhere there. I don't know, I'd have to calculate it out. We'd want to get to, we want to pull down another $150 to be at a solid over 10% return on this. And that may still be doable because I haven't actually sold all of the cards from this portfolio. But we'll come back to that in a minute. First, I just want to give you guys a little bit of general theory on what we're doing here. What we want to do is we want to buy cards that are fundamentally sound, cards that are being played. So to do that, we're going to go to MTG Goldfish. We're going to do a metagame check. This is standard. You could also check modern, pauper. I would stay generally away from legacy and vintage, although it's fine to check those places if you're really interested in, say, a modern spec and you're curious if maybe the card also sees play in legacy, which doesn't hurt. But there's not a ton of people playing vintage and legacy, so you really have to look at standard and modern as the things that really drive prices, and occasionally pauper for a few commons if you think you found something that's a great deal. Anyway, this is a standard metagame. You can click on any of these links and you can see the cards that are in these decks. If you're familiar enough with Magic to already have a sense of what's in these decks, then what you really care about is, say for example, I'm trying to check out Gideon and see how he's doing right now. Well, I know that Gideon is a card that's either main deck or sideboard in both Marty Vehicles and White-Blue Monument. So it's a card that's going to exist in over 20%-ish of the top decks out there, and arguably is a card that's, I don't know if White-Blue Monument and Marty Vehicles should both be number 1 and number 2 rated decks in the meta, but I think they're both tier 1. So we're talking about a mythic rare that exists inside 2 tier 1 decks. So therefore the card is fundamentally solid. The next thing you want to do is you want to check out the card's price chart, because the age-old adage of buy low and sell high is definitely where you want to be. So on this chart you can kind of get a sense of how Gideon's generally trending downward, which is understandable because another factor you want to keep in mind specifically when you're looking at standard cards is rotation. Gideon's going to be rotating here in a few months, and so you definitely want to be mindful of that. As soon as he rotates out, he'll probably still see a little bit of play in modern and legacy, but most likely he will take a bit of a price hit, and that price hit's probably going to come before he rotates, with people trying to get out before the price drops, which in turn will cause the price to drop before he rotates. Nonetheless, we're going into the Pro Tour. Cards tend to get hyped up and can spike up during the Pro Tour. Right now at $14.79 online, lowest price ever $13.39 online. I think that, I talked previously how at 14 I thought Gideon still had room for another spike. He's already spiked up to 1950, which is fantastic, and now he's back down again. I think there's still room for another spike because he spiked before the Pro Tour, and I just can't see Gideon not putting up decent results. May not win, but there's going to be a couple of solid decks. White-Blue Monument is just a solid deck. There's going to be a lot of day 2 decks that are running Gideon, and that's going to get people's attention, and even though they don't want to be holding them prior to rotation, there's going to be a lot of people who still want to grind that value with a really good deck, and they'll be willing to buy Gideon and play with him for a month and then sell him in a month. So anyway, this is some of the methodologies we're going to use. You want to look at the charts. You want to buy cards when they're at a low point. You do not want to be one of those people who jumps in and buys cards just because you know, they're going up and there's all this hype. You know, what you really want to do is check weekly change numbers, and if you can, if at all possible, what you really want to do is come down here and see this Angel of Invention that's up $5 on the week. Do not touch that crap. Do not touch that. You do not want to be touching cards that are up on the week. Over here, Kozilek's return down $4 on the week. I know the price chart history on this card. I wouldn't want to touch this one anyway because it went up a boatload before it's come down. Now, Archangel Avacyn is a real interesting situation. Now, unfortunately, this card is about to rotate. If it wasn't going to rotate, this would be a fabulous buy because this card is so cheap at $5, and it's such a good card. But it's going to rotate, and it may not pick up again before the next set comes out. So it's got certainly dangerous. Same thing with Tireless Tracker. Tireless Tracker is amazing. $3 is not $3.70 is not amazing. I'd probably watch it drop some more before I got in. Gideon I don't think is terrible right now. I think it's still got room to make a couple of tickets on this guy over the next. Actually, you're either going to make or lose your money on Gideon basically over the next 10 days. So this is one of those, if you want to roll the dice on a fast turnaround, you're going to make your money or not make your money on Pro Tour results. But anyway, you get the idea. These are the cards you really want to be looking at, is the weekly big losers. And you want to find a card that's fundamentally sound and just for whatever reasons is crashing, but you know it's coming back. That's exactly where you want to be. Or you want to check the dailies to see cards that are down on daily price crashes is another great place to check. Every once in a while you'll know that there's a card over here that's fundamentally sound, and you'll want to get in on that. So I don't know, maybe these fast lands, if they get down closer to $2, maybe you want to pick some of these up. They never seem to get below $2 anymore, and they're pretty good. Anyway, you get the idea. So that's kind of the general basics. There's a lot more to it, but that gives you the general idea. So going back to my investment sheet, some of the cards that really, there's a whole bunch of different cards. I spec'd in 53 different cards. When I make my portfolio, I just write down the names of what I'm buying. I'll write down the set if I feel like it. Doesn't really matter that much. I'll put the quantity, which is really important, and the purchase price. I'll also put the date of the purchase down, which is somewhat important, but not the end of the world if you forget it. That way when I sell the card, I'll have some sense of how long I held it. Because if you can get a 10% return on one of these portfolios, which is what I aim for, if you can do that 3 or 4 times a year, you're going to get a 30 to a 40% return on your money annually, which I don't know where you're going to do that. There's not a whole lot of places that allow you those kind of returns. So if you know what you're doing, this can be a really fabulous way to make some relatively easy money. But there is risk, of course. Anyway, I mark this stuff in green if I made money on it. I mark it in red if I lost money. And the different shades of green don't mean anything. I just am too lazy to make sure I get the same color every time. So as you can see, I've got a lot more winners than losers. The one gray here means it just broke even. These prairie streams were down for a long time, and I didn't have the patience to hold on long enough for them to get back up. I sold these just before White Blue Monument became a thing because I had been holding them for so long. I think I must have had these for 6 weeks or something, which felt like a long time, and I knew rotation was around the corner, so I just was looking for a chance to unload them and didn't have the faith, and then boom, White Blue Monument came out. They went through the roof, and I actually could have made a lot of profit on these prairie streams if I had been more patient. So I mean, I'm not even doing this perfectly. I'm making a lot of mistakes, and I'm still managing to make a profit. But you do have to have some sense of the fundamental soundness of cards, and that means you need some experience with the game if you're going to do this, I think. Anyway, so I had a lot of different cards I went in on. The ones that don't have any highlighting, these are cards that I haven't actually sold yet. So Smoldering Marshes, this is kind of one of my top losers here. Smoldering Marsh had a long history of staying over $1 and spiking up much higher than that. So I think I picked it up right after this last point where it started to dip under $1, basically for the first time. Well, I guess maybe it did it a little bit right before Eldritch Moon, but one of the first times it really started to seriously go below $1. Uh-oh, looks like Looks like MTG Goldfish crashed on us. Anyway, my thinking on this was it's a card that's never really crashed much below $1, so I mean, for its entire lifetime, so I mean, how could it possibly go lower now? And then lo and behold, I bought it at just the perfect time to watch it absolutely crash and burn. This doesn't really happen very often. Usually if a card has a long performing history of staying between certain price ranges, generally you're not going to see it just crash and burn, but that's exactly what we had happen on this one. So right now I'm probably going to take a bath on this card. That's okay. Even if I just unload all these at 33 cents, which is a massive loss on the particular card, but again, I'm already into profit right now, so I've already made back more than I put in. So every card I can sell, whatever I can sell it for, is going to help my bottom line on profitability. I've got some other random junk, but most of the other things I have left at this point, you know, Bonfire of the Damned, I got like $11 worth there, not really a big deal. $11 worth of Ranger Vios, not a big deal. I got a couple of tickets floating around. The last two that really matter that I'm holding are Ishkana and Kalidas. And Kalidas is starting to come back. Ishkana is kind of meandering around. After this next Pro Tour, you know, win, lose, or draw, I'm unpacking these. If Kalidas has been slowly rising, he's another one of those that 16 was a fairly low price when you look at his price chart history, and then right after I bought him they just went down to 10, came back I think maybe up to around 15, and then went back to 10. Now they're up around 12. If he gets back close to 16, I'll probably just unload him and say good riddance. Ishkana, fortunately I didn't buy a whole lot of them, so I'm not in terribly deep, but hasn't been doing particularly well. And if I get a chance to unload these, you know, around 6, I'll probably just go ahead and unpack them. I also had some cards that did really well. Probably my best performing cards were probably Blood Moon, which I made 44 tickets of profit on. Liliana, which I made $42 of profit on. Gideon, which I made $41 of profit on. So these were some of the best cards as far as profitability goes. And then Scalding Tarn takes it all. Made 71 tickets off of Scalding Tarns. So let me just show you real quick. I'll pull up a few of these. The Liliana, you know, his I actually managed to get in on the Liliana's, let's see here, 56, which is funny because it's not even, I don't even know if that's really showing up on the chart. I guess it's somewhere in here, but it's pretty close to its relative low. I don't know, I don't see anything even close to 53 on here. But at any rate, this was kind of, I feel like this was kind of a no-brainer. If I'd had more money, I probably would have bought more of these. But, you know, just to get a playset was $200. So if you had a lot of money to put somewhere, you know, Liliana was a great place. And there's something to learn from this. Anytime we have a Modern Master set, there's a really super valuable mythic rare that's going to be reprinted for the first time. I mean, it's almost just automatic free money, and you should go about as deep as you feel comfortable going on that, because it's probably going to give you some nice returns. Gideon's had all kinds of ups and downs, and somewhere during one of those I managed to make a fair bit of money on flipping some Gideons, so that was another one. The Scalding Tarns, I got in on these around a relative low, around 13 something. The lowest price ever is $12.75, and the highest price is $26.80. I think I sold somewhere around 23 or something like that, and so I did pretty well. These Scalding Tarns were sweet, and you know that we hadn't seen a reprint on the old enemy color fetch lands before this, so it seemed like, and Scalding Tarn was one of the most popular of the group, so I went in on all the fetch lands and they all made me at least some measure of profit. But it looks like even though Scalding Tarn was the most expensive one, because it was the most popular, it paid off with the best returns. So anyway, that basically wraps it up, guys. I hope this gives you some insight into what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and please, you know, feel free to tune in next time. I'll give you some more updates on what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So until then, I hope this helps you guys to make a fat stack of tickets on Magic the Gathering Online. Peace!